Well, guys, I thought it was about time that I got some modeling done. I got that atomic car done, and this is the Fayetteville kit that I'd started a long time ago. It's about time I get it done. Here. That's how it's looking right now. Chassis done. I just put the fuel cell in. You can see a little bit of glue there, but I used some Formula 50 Formula 560. That's 10 times better than Formula 50. Anyway, this stuff works great for the 64 scale cars. And actually, I've been using it a lot more rather than super glue for some of these things, because the parts, because the way they're designed, they fit together pretty tightly. So you only need a little bit of glue. So super glue is kind of overkill sometimes. So there's the body. There is the chassis. Over here on my handy dandy little holder are the wheels and tires all ready to go. I did the wheels separately than the backers, and painted them black, and you can see, and then put the little hub piece on there after it was painted black, and then glued the whole thing into the pre-painted silver wheel. So you got the black hub, the silver hub cap, and the silver of the wheel. So I'm going to put it together and get it done. It just needs to get done, and I don't know. I've been in a rut lately, and I feel like breaking out of it finally. I don't know. It's been a while since I finished something, and today I finished something. So now it's like, well, let's finish all the stuff I have had on the burner forever and have never finished. So let's get this one done. Here is a seat that's all painted. I painted it so long ago I do not remember what I used. I think I used Tester's Metallizer on this, but any kind of silver-like paint will work. And what I did was I glued it to a coffee stirrer on the bottom, because you never see the bottom anyway, and painted it like that. And in a minute here I'm going to break it off the coffee stirrer and glue it into place. They start like this in the kit. Brass. You just kind of fold them up. If you don't want to have to deal with painting them, I do have stainless steel versions, but I don't have very many of them right now, so I've been actually painting them, and I wanted to do exactly the way it was in the kit, so I didn't use any aftermarket, well, quote-unquote aftermarket, after kit parts on it. And it comes out pretty trick for a little seat for a 64 scale car, and we're just going to pop it in the cockpit before I put the body on. So we'll go from there. One other trick on the seats in 64 scale is that when they go in the cockpit, you actually want them a little bit forward and not resting right on the back. You can rest them there, but when you try to put the body on, it's kind of tight with the seat there, and having the seat kicked a little bit forward can help you quite a bit. It makes it a lot easier to get it in there. So what I do, and let's see if you can even see it here. So I have these little beads, and any kind of bead would work. I just happen to have these because they actually are the backers in the kits behind the wheel. But any kind of little bead will work, and I glue it right on the back right there, and that is your little spacer, and it keeps it off the back. You can just go get some little plastic beads, some little black plastic beads from the shop. One you can spend $2 and get 1,000 of them, and you'll never run out in your lifetime. So we're going to glue that up on there, and we're going to pop that seat in the cockpit, and we can put this body on soon. So to glue that little dude on the back, I have a portion cup, and you see all these little pins that are super glued to it. Well, I'm not doing that to try to make some modern art. Actually, I use all the little pins to apply super glue. So they only work a couple times and then they get stuck, and then I just use a bunch of more. But I actually put the super glue on the back in a little pool and then I use a pin to apply it. So I'm going to go in here and get a little bit on there, barely even noticeable amount, but there's a little bit on there, and I'm going to apply it where I want it, which is right there. And I don't even know if you can see that. This camera isn't the best in the world. Take a pair of pliers or tweezers, pick that little guy up and set it where you want it. And it really doesn't matter as long as it's on the back somewhere. It doesn't have to be centered or anything like that. You're not really going to see it anyway. All it is a spacer. And I'm going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to pop this seat off of that coffee stirrer, and it's just super glued on, and it holds good enough, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of residue, and the residue is on the bottom of the seat anyway, so you don't even see it. And we'll put it in the cockpit, and there we go. Seat is installed, and if you can see, there's a little hole right there, and this is, I think this is only on the Fayetteville kits that have this little hole the way that it mounts. The other ones are actually in the body, but that little hole is where the steering wheel is going to end up going. So you want to kind of center your seat over that hole. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's so small, no one's going to see it. But after this glue dries, you can see that little spacer back there that I talked about earlier. After that dries up, I'm going to put the steering wheel in place, and then the body can pretty much go on. So next thing we want to put in, we want to do a steering wheel, and I have a little collection of steering wheels that I've pre-done. I've glued them on, and I've just painted them black. If you want to go really crazy, you could go in there with a paintbrush and paint the spokes silver, but some people just have black steering wheels, and I want to get this car done, so I'm not going to be as detail heavy as I normally am. But that little shaft is going to go into the hole. I'm going to have to cut it down and kind of weave it in there to fit first, and then I'm probably going to use that canopy glue so I don't leave a mess. If you super glue on a painted surface, it can fog, and I don't really want that. Even though the steering wheel is going to be hardly visible at all, I don't want it to fog, so I'll probably use canopy glue, and we'll glue it up. And then there is the steering wheel. It is, I don't even know if I can zoom in at all with this camera. See, it comes to the dashboard in the back, and actually I haven't glued it yet, but I am actually going to touch it with super glue right there, right where it comes through the back side, and that will be enough. And I don't even need to trim it because all of that section is going to be hidden anyway. You won't be able to see in there at all. So I'm just going to put a dab of glue in there, and the cockpit will be done. Now, if you really wanted to go crazy, you could do some seat belts or anything in there. The sky is the limit with these things. And there we go. Cockpit is all done for this one. The body is pretty much done. There's a couple decals left to do, and I still have to put on the air filter, but I'm going to do that after I put it together. I need to get the wheels installed so I'll know exactly where to mount the body up, but we're pretty close. And I think what I'll do actually is do a complete build from scratch. One of these. This one is pretty far along, but I really just wasn't in the mood to start from scratch quite yet. I'll do another one from scratch, and we'll do some other car. Who knows what? I'll just pick something, or maybe I'll have you guys pick for me. I got a McCready that I've been wanting to do. Maybe I'll do an older McCready car because I already have the decals designed for it. But we're going to pop the wheels on this thing, and I'll take some video of that as well before I put the body on, just so you can see how the wheels kind of fit without the body on. So to get ready to mount up the wheels, what you want to do is when you made them, you should have kept the length on there, just because they're easier to hold on to and move around. But before you mount them, you're going to want to trim them, and I would say probably a tire width of length, because when you put them in the tube here, obviously that tube has to be split between two wheels, so you want to cut it so it's at least only half of what the tube length is. So trim them up and then mount them in the right spot, and that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, we got tires mounted up. They are not glued. They are just sitting inside. The pins are just sitting in the tubes. We don't want to glue them up yet because we want to be able to set the width correctly in the body. So we just get them set in there, and then when we mount at the body, we can make sure it's centered on the wheels and looks good. And then I usually glue the body on next, and then lastly I set the width of the tires, the stance, and then glue those. So next I'm going to pop the body on, and we'll see how it looks. Alright, well, the body is just sitting on there. If you look around the back, let me grab something here. If you look around the back, you can see there's a space between the body and the frame, and if you can't get it in the right place, and there's still a space there, you can actually take the body off and just bend this whole back section up. You can just take it and pull it up to raise that up, or lower it if it's, and that way you can kind of change the angle of the body and kind of make your own look and vary it quite a bit with just bending that up and down. Now it sits flush back there. You can see that. And we'll kind of play around a little bit to get the stance right. Not even worrying about the wheelbase, the width of them yet. We'll do that last. Right now we just want to worry about the fit of the body frontwards and backwards, up and down, and tipping forward or back to kind of get the stance that we want. And then after that we'll set the width of everything. So we're going to play around with it a little bit, and we'll talk about the glue up after that. Alright, well, now we got the body on there, and what I'm going to do is set the stance, and I played with it a little bit, and you should do the same before you finally set where it's going to be. Now, one thing to note here that you'll want to use as a reference point is you have the body bottom here, and then we have the bottom of the chassis here. And kind of what you want to do is you want to, when it's flipped upside down, you usually want to have the chassis and the body lined up, so you can see that this is tipped forward just a little bit in the front compared to the back. So what you can do is kind of lift it up a little bit and to get it exactly where we want it to be before we glue it on there. So small little tweaks, and then I'm going to glue it up from the bottom. Now you can use super glue or any other glue, really. I guess it's just really a matter of personal preference here, but I'm probably going to use super glue on this just to get it all together for the video so I can complete one. But notice the tires are still way out of whack as far as being in the right spot. We're going to do that last. And that's glued up. And what I did was the same technique that I used before with some of the other things, where I put some super glue in there, use a pin to pick up some, and I feel like Bob Ross when I say just a little roll of super glue right there on the tip. And we're just going to put it right there on the back side. And this is underneath the car, so you won't see it. And we just kind of fill that in with super glue to give us a good spot. And we can also do the other one's a little bit harder, but you can actually do the rear chassis where it touches the body there. And I won't be able to do it and hold the camera at the same time, but I'll put a couple dabs underneath there where you won't see them. And of course all right, well, what do we got? We got body mounted. Tires are in the right place, as good as I can reasonably get them. Here's the other side. Stance is acceptable. I did work a little bit on the nose. I shaved off a little bit off the bottom. That's kind of a bit of a design flaw, I guess you could say. I'll own up to that one. The nose, it's a little bit higher than I want. It didn't really translate as well over to 64 scale as I'd wanted to. I like the nose a little shorter. But it's still not too bad. So last thing we're going to want to do is put the wheel covers on. In this particular car, actually, there are exclusive covers for this that I made just for it. And there are these dudes right here. You can see they have those 6 little ticks on them. I happen to be looking at reference photos of him and noticing he had some different wheel covers that I hadn't seen on anyone else before. So on one of the chrome plates that I had, I found some empty space that I couldn't fit anything else onto, and I added a few of those. So, and it was a plate that I only made once, so I only have like maybe 10 of them. So anyway, I'm going to glue them on, and what we want to do to glue them on, what I recommend, is have the tires and wheels all in place exactly how you want them, and then stand the car up. And what I'm going to do is, again with this good old world's best canopy glue, Formula 560, and a stick, I'm going to put some down in just a couple dabs down on the edge of the wheel, and using tweezers I'm going to drop them in there and they'll fit like a glove. So I can't do that with a camera in my hand, so I'm going to do that, but we'll see how they fit here in just a second. Alright, well, we are in the spray booth because I realized I didn't have an air cleaner for this guy painted up, so there's the little blue resin air cleaner. I'm just going to use Tester's Metalizer Aluminum Model Master, because it dries really fast and I'm kind of in a hurry. I'm impatient today. As far as equipment goes, what am I running? This is an Iwata studio compressor. As you can hear, it's very quiet right now. It's not doing anything. An Iwata airbrush. It is consumer grade, not very expensive. I have an extra one just in case it dies. But I'm just going to shoot this real quick. The metalizer will dry in 10 minutes and I'll be able to pop this guy in and that thing will be complete. Be back. Alright, well, it's a little bit loud because the fan's on, but we are all painted. And a little note is if your part flies away because it's too light, just use a piece of tape. Just stuck to the tape. And metalizer only takes 10 minutes or so to dry, so this will be done soon. And I'm going to leave the fan on for a while because right now that is full of fumes and that's going to suck them out so we don't start a fire. It's fire season in Oregon. So we're going to let that dry and we're going to pop it into place and we will just about be done with this guy. And there we go. One completed Fayetteville kit. I'll get some full pictures of it. Put them up on the website, but I don't know. Don't know what else to say about it. It's a pretty good way of building a modern late model. There's some customizing options out there, and hopefully someday I will get a newer version of the nose made. It's pretty expensive to do, and maybe eventually I'll do one manually. I have up here one of my masters, and I have, as you can see, put some milliput on it, and I just need to sand and shape it, and I just haven't yet, but I don't know. It may not work. Who knows? We'll see. But until then, you can do that one, or the other one as well is if you do the roof option. Here is a raw brass one, but with the other aftermarket roof on it. And it's got the cutout sail panels, which are a lot more common now. really changed about the last 4 or 5 years. They've really moved to those. So if I could get the nose updated and the sail panels, we'll be able to go from there. All right. Well, until next time, Dirt Modeler signing off.